Is that clear enough? Okay, so what we're going to do here today is today's topic is how fat is lost. Now, fat's a very popular topic. There's so much medical, well, non-medical I should say, there's so much misinformation about fat and how to lose it, how it's gained and what it does. It's unbelievable. So what I'm going to do here today is give a lecture or a tutorial or a lesson, but basically information about how fat is lost from the human body. And it's just, I have never come across a physiology book that has set this out, or a lecturer, or a doctor, or anyone else that's actually gone, or any article that actually set how you lose fat from the body. Now, to start with, let's take a look at what happens in the human body. Essentially, when you eat food, the food goes in through your mouth into the alimentary system. So the food that goes into your mouth eventually gets digested and goes through your stomach, and then through your small intestine and your large intestine, which I haven't drawn here, and it exits the body. Now, what we have to use here to actually show where the best way to track where the fat goes is you track it by mass. Conservation of mass dictates that mass is neither created nor destroyed. What happens is the food goes in, and the stuff that comes out when you go to the toilet, the difference in that weight versus what you took in is going to be what went into your body. So fat, let's say you drink pure cream or pure fat, whatever, after that meal, if that's all you ate, whatever went out, if you had a clean digestive system before, would be the difference between what has gone in minus what gone into your mouth, and then what was absorbed into your body, then you excrete the remainder. So we can actually draw a system, make a system barrier around the body of the human. So the mass that goes into your actual body over time equals the mass that you eat over time minus the mass that you excrete over time. So how do we lose fat? Well, we gain fat because we basically absorb, and our body's very good at absorbing fat from our intestines into our bloodstream, and then it gets deposited in various cells and used for various processes. But let's look at this. The fat gets deposited. How do we get that fat back out again? Now firstly, let's do a simplified diagram of what's happening here. We can simplify this to basically, body is this section of this pipe, the thick walled pipe. Here's the body. I'll just hatch that there. The food goes in, that's our alimentary system. Some is absorbed into the body, and the waste comes out that end. You do have a bladder here, and there's a small amount of waste that gets absorbed and excreted there. Now let's say, just for convenience, we'll say this is our fat part here. Once we put the fat on, because it's being absorbed and put into fat cells, or more fat cells are being built and have been put in, wherever those fat cells are in the body, how do we get that fat back out? Well, you don't excrete it. If you excrete fat, basically there's nothing, as I understand it, there's nothing in the normal function of the body that excretes fat from the alimentary system on any meaningful scale under normal health conditions back into the alimentary canal. So you don't excrete fat through the alimentary canal. There are some drugs that stop you absorbing the fat, and then if you fail to absorb fat, you actually get a medical complaint or problem known as steatorrhea, and I assure you, you'll know when you've got it, because it's very, very purulent is the polite word, but you'll definitely know when you've got that. And I think there's a particular tablet that aims at stopping absorption of fat, and yeah, it's not nice to have it all. So you don't meaningfully get rid of fat like that. So let's ask ourselves for a moment, what is fat made of? Well, fat is essentially, here's a prototypical fat, it's essentially long carbon chains with hydrogens attached to them. And sometimes this, for example, has got some oxygens and some carbons up there as well. So if we want to get rid of this fat, the mass must go somewhere. Where does it go? Well, the answer here, let's look at this carbon. Where's this carbon going? Where do we lose carbon from the body? Well, in a normal metabolism, the way we lose carbon from the body is, you guessed it, it's when we breathe out carbon dioxide. These carbons are broken down for their energy into the citric acid cycle, and ultimately through the metabolism of the cell in the citric acid cycle and other cycles in the cell, it's combined with oxygen that you breathe in, and you breathe out carbon dioxide. So the weight of the fat is actually breathed out. So you lose your fat by breathing it out. You often hear people say we burn the fat off, but when you look at energy, you can't weigh energy, you've got to weigh the mass, and that's accurate. Also, with the hydrogens, they combine to be water, and they're excreted using the usual ways of urination, sweat, or water vapor when you breathe out. So every time you breathe out, you can actually measure, the number of carbon atoms you breathed out, and you could take a weight of that. And this will pretty much correspond to the amount of carbon you've lost from your body. Of course, there'll be some other questions of the carbon came from fat in the first place. It can come from other catabolic processes. But essentially, the take-home message is that you have to breathe fat out. And of course, if you exercise, yes, you will breathe faster, and your respiratory rate will go up, so you will probably lose more weight. But the reality is, eating is by far and away the one of the largest determinants of weight gain, rather than exercise to lose the weight. Of course, exercise is good and it does help a lot, but more or less what you eat will make you fat. But the important thing is you lose fat by breathing it out.